So thanks everyone for tuning in to today's deep dive into FME Desktop 2018. And there's lots of stuff to explore and learn about, and we're excited to be doing that with you today. So the next slide, Mark Ireland is running that. Oh, I should actually, people that are just joining won't know who we are. My name is Dale Lutz. I'm one of the co-founders of Safe Software, and I'm fresh off the plane from faraway Ethiopia, so I'm a little bit off balance, but I'm joined this morning by my good friend, Miss
Annabelle Glass. I lead the desktop experts team at Safe Software.
And Annabelle will be digging in the second half of this morning's webinar to talk about some of the stuff. And joining us from afar, we have...
I'm Mark Ireland. I'm a FME evangelist. And I believe what's on screen now is a photo you took from the plane window on your journey.
That's right. This is out of the side of the airplane as we were flying over one of the bigger cities. We were up very, very high, and maybe there was a little bit of distortion through the lens, but saw some of my favorite FME characters. And so the team was able to turn this into a splash screen, which is pretty amazing. And that is actually the official 2018 splash screen. So we got our friend the lizard with the balloon and the Zipster. And basically, I know one of our longtime customers said it was time to redeem the Zipster. We got the Zipster here, and actually at the end of the broadcast, I'll show the Zipsters helping us out with this morning's broadcast here, here at Safe headquarters. So anyway, the next slide, we can reveal that we think we are at the stage where we have what we call a release candidate of 2018. So this is a little bit different than the usual betas. It means we are not intending to really touch this thing other than if any bad stuff is found, and Annabelle's team is always finding bad stuff.
We try.
But they're almost running out of bad things to find. And so that's why we have a release candidate that you can grab. We will be making minor tweaks to that. I know there's a couple of small fixes going in the next couple of days. Then we'll have kind of a cooling off period. And with any luck, around 10 days from now, we will call it a release. But we will release no wine before it's time. So sometime in early March, we will declare all's well and release this thing.
And it gives you a good month to kick at it before the world tour. And you can come to us with all of your complaints at that point.
That's right, because we'll talk about that at the end. But Annabelle and I are not going on the same world tour this year.
Shucks.
I know, so I'm kind of sad about that, but I'm sure you'll have even a better time without me.
Aw.
Anyway, and Mark, you're going to be in Winnipeg for the world tour, aren't you?
I am, and also Edmonton and possibly Calgary as well, or Calgary.
Excellent.
For the day.
Excellent. Is that your Alberta debut?
It is, yes. I don't think I've been to an Alberta world tour before.
Excellent, excellent. So with that, Mark, I think I'm going to hand the talk over to you this morning, and you're going to start unveiling all of the wonder that is FME 2018.
I am, and please do feel free to butt in with any comments in case I miss anything. First of all, we're going to do a little bit of a demo just in case there's any new users here. We want to get you up to speed on what FME is all about, but also we're going to show a few things that are really interesting for existing users that's new in 2018. So we've got FME Workbench, and what we're going to do is basically what we do with FME all of the time is we're going to start out by generating a translation, and we're generating from Shapefile, and I'm going to find my shape source data, which is a data set of parks, and I'm going to write out to a new format for FME 2018. It's Microsoft PowerPoint. That's not a format I ever thought we would have, but there you are. We have it now. And so I'm picking a template PowerPoint. It's only got a few things set up in it, like the font and things like that. And I'm setting my output to here. We'll call it parks.powerpoint. And click OK, and that'll run up a quick workspace. So this is what our translation looks like to start with. But of course, we all know that FME is very good at adding transformation to a translation. So I'm going to drop down a transformer to calculate the area of my parks, and then another one to calculate some statistics about that and other components.
So Mark, I'll just interrupt and ask, like from a very high level, you're going to take a shapefile and make a PowerPoint presentation. Is that what you're up to?
That's exactly what I'm doing here, yes. So
that's never been done before on broadcast television.
Not something I thought would ever have been done with FME, but there we go. So I'm just analyzing some of the attributes from the park data, like the number of trees, number of visitors, and the area. And we are going to put them into an attribute. So we will say number of parks, and sum is going to be the sum of those attributes, like so. So we're calculating some statistics. I'm going to throw down another transformer here, an attribute rounder, if I can spell it correctly. And that's just going to round off some of those numbers for us, in particular the area ones. We don't need areas to 15 decimal places or whatever it is. We'll just go with 1 decimal place, like so. So now we're going to look at a transformer called the PowerPoint styler. Not every format in FME needs a styler transformer. We've got a few different ones for different formats, but since we're writing to a PowerPoint, we can use a PowerPoint styler transformer. And this gives us a lot of power. It puts the power in PowerPoint, we could say. I'm sorry. We got all sorts of different slides we can create, like tables and titles and charts. I'm going to do a map slide. Basically, the spatial data is going to be put into here as a map, and the title of each slide is going to come from the district or neighborhood. So we're going to have a slide per neighborhood of Vancouver, and we're going to build what we call a caption. I don't know if captions are a term within PowerPoint itself, but we're going to put a caption like number of parks, and then drop down the count. There we go, number of parks, total area of the parks in that district is going to be that sum. Total trees is going to be that sum, and the number of visitors will be, oops, wrong one. Visitors.sum. There we go. So we're calculating some statistics there. We're going to put a label on some of the features in there. We're going to use the park name as the label. I'm going to just make the font a little bit smaller so it doesn't overwhelm the features. And we're going to set it to a darker color so we can actually see it. And we don't need to wrap any text. Anything else we can do with this? Well, yeah, we can set some colors. So I can set all of the parks to have a sort of pale green color. We could set hyperlinks and borders if we wanted. I don't particularly need to, so I'm going to ignore that. But we're going to say multiple features per slide. And how we're going to do that is say each district gets its own slide in the output.
Wow. I haven't actually seen this before, so I'm pretty excited.
So now I'm going to run that. Just takes a few seconds. Here's my output, and I'm going to copy. I'm running on a virtual machine. I'm going to copy my output to a local machine. You should still be able to see this because I only have PowerPoint installed locally. And here we are. And we got some parks, and yeah, the number of parks, the area, the total trees. I totally missed out a step I meant to do there. So we'll go back to here. I'm going to throw down a creator transformer, another PowerPoint styler. And what I'm doing here is just generating a single feature, which is going to be our title slide. So we're going to call that Parks of Vancouver and FME, FME generated presentation, if I could spell properly. Run that quickly again. Here's the output. Let's look. There we go. Now we've got a title slide in there. So
oh, wow. Even with your typo on the generated.
Yes, I know. So
that was just Dutch spelling.
That was just to prove that it was live and there was no trickery there. So, so yeah, so this is what we mean by caption on the left-hand side. And,
so Mark, can you select one of those parks just for a second?
I can, yes, there we go.
And see, you can actually, those are actually vector objects, and so people can move those around and do whatever they want.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be in the right geographic location then, but
yes.
But yeah, I mean, you could do that for example, here we could, where the labels overlap, I guess we could sort of move that about to improve the labels on that sort of thing. But yeah.
And I guess the background, or basically the template you have, has that nice sort of soothing picture of the trees there.
That's right, yes, and also the fonts that we use as well. That was stored in the template. But apart from that, everything else was FME powered. Yeah, I was impressed. I didn't think I'd find any use for a PowerPoint writer, but I got to admit, I'm totally impressed with that.
So at a very, very high level, just to sort of sum up, if you're brand new to FME, what Mark has done is create a set of rules that govern the transformation from some input to some output. And the thing is, now this thing has been automated, or it can be automated to produce this report every morning. So if you had, instead of parks, you had an input data set of the potholes that were fixed the day before, you could do that and produce a PowerPoint so that you could give that to the management team. And this kind of proves that PDF is no longer the only place data can go to die. Data can now go to die inside of PowerPoint as well.
So yeah, I mean, normally we wouldn't write PowerPoint in FME, but most people will probably still be writing spatial or non-spatial. But it's pretty cool that we can do that. Anyway, that was a bit of an intro. Hey, who knows? I mean, PowerPoint might take over from Shape as the most popular format. We don't know that. But what we're going to do.
There was one question that I'll just jump in on. Somebody asked if we can do the same for Google Slides, and we've been looking at what we would do is actually have an automatic step at the end, which would convert the thing you just created and upload it to your Google account and turn it into Google Slides. We have not done that yet, but that is a great question. But I'll leave it for you to take over from there, Mark.
Awesome. And also we have a Word writer as well, so if you want to write Word documents, and I believe that's coming up later in the presentation. So let's dive a bit more deeply into some of the functionality. The big one for me in Workbench is this idea of cached data and partial runs. So cached data basically means data is saved by FME at every step of the translation. It's a bit like the one we had in 2017 with run with full inspection, but now we call it run with cached data. And we save the data at every step. And what that means is that you can start running a translation partway through using that cached data to provide the input. And we've got a good demo of that coming up shortly, which will demonstrate that to you. To me, that's the biggest change. Collapsible bookmarks, well, they're a big change as well. There's not a lot to demo there. You have a bookmark, you can collapse it down to a smaller size, and that's pretty much it. But it's a really nice way of cleaning up your workspace canvas. And there are a few things I can show that sort of dive into that a little bit more deeply that you might have not found. So we'll have a look at that in the demo as well. Translation logs, the log window, if you've used FME 2018 beta yet, you might have noticed there are little buttons there now to show errors, to show the warnings. So you can start filtering information out of that log window a lot more easily. And the other thing I'm going to show in the next demo is copying and pasting parameters between different transformers, which is fantastic. You can see the one on screen right now, this little animated GIF. It's copying from one tester and pasting a test into another one. And it works with conditional values as well, and all sorts of things. And it's really very, very time saving. So again, we're going to look at a quick demo to show how that works. So what the demo is going to be is an analysis of walkability of all the addresses in Vancouver. So I'm going to open up a template that I saved from earlier. And this, so it's sort of a project in progress, we can say at this point. So we're calculating the walkability of every address within Vancouver. So we've got the addresses coming in here, and we're doing a match to various data sets. Here's a crime data set. So we're checking out how much crime is in the block of each address. And we join that information together with this new transformer for 2018 called a feature joiner. The feature joiner is like a SQL-based alternative to the feature merger. It's got inner joins, left joins, full joins. You can do outer joins and right joins as well, just by reversing the ports on it. So it's more of a SQL-based joining tool than the feature merger. I'm not going to go into too much detail because there's a blog post online about that. And I don't know if we can chat that blog post link out. If someone could do that, that would be awesome. Because that goes into it in full detail, so I don't need to explain it in too much now. We can also say that it's a lot faster than the feature merger as well. So going forward, I'd probably use this a bit more than the feature merger. The terminology is a bit different, take a while to get used to perhaps, but it does joins way more efficiently than the feature merger. So well worth looking at that new transformer for 2018. The other thing to note here, the crime data, well, that's coming directly from the City of Vancouver website. If we look at the source parameter for it, it's actually coming from ftp.vancouver.ca, open data, crime. So it's an Excel file, it's been zipped up, and we can read from that directly from the City of Vancouver website. And we could always do that. Well, we've been able to do it for the last few years at least. And that's good because it means our source data is always going to be up to date. But on the other hand, it's, well, while I'm sort of putting the workspace together and building it, do I really want to be doing that? Do I really want to hit their website every time? I'm sure the City of Vancouver don't want us doing that. And that's good because we've got caches, and caches come in useful for exactly this fact. And you can see we've got these little green icons on transformers now, and that means there is a cache of data already there. Why is there a cache of data already there? Because normally to get that, I would turn on run with feature caching, and then I would run the translation. So how is it that I've got that caches already? It's because you can save a cache of data to a template file. So I set up the workspace, ran it, saved it as a template, and now when I open that back up, all the cache data is ready for me. So I don't even need to run this workspace once for it to be cached, which is fantastic. Okay, well, say we make a change to this. Say I look at this attribute value mapper, and in there we have different values according to different crimes. So we say, oh, well, homicide's 25 points, but mischief is only a point. And I can say, well, I'd like to sort of change these about a bit, perhaps. We'll say offense against a person is like 12, but commercial breaking and enter, I don't care so much about because this is walkability, so that doesn't affect me walking around. So we'll say 2, and theft of the vehicle perhaps is a bit less important, and so on. So we've made a few changes there. I click OK. What happens? Well, what happens is the caches downstream of that transformer all turn yellow. Yellow basically means they're stale. They no longer are up to date with the state of the workspace, if we can put it that way. So, but everything before that point is. So when I want to run the workspace, I don't have to run the entire thing. I only have to run it from the point at which things have changed. So if I click on the attribute value mapper, I can see we've got pop-up buttons now that say run everything up until this point, or run everything from this point. And when I hover over that, it turns green, so I can see what's going to be run in this translation, and it doesn't include the feature joiner or nothing before it, so I'm not going to hit that website again. Instead of hitting that run button, I can press F6. I mentioned on Twitter that F6 is the new F5, and that's why, because I've got pressing F5 down, it's ingrained in my instinct now, but I've got to try and avoid doing that. F6 is runs from a particular point. F5 is run the entire workspace. So from now on, F6 I think is going to be a bit more important to me. And the initial run will be slower, but you can see that that run only took a few seconds. It took 10 seconds just to do that bit of the workspace. Now, yes, the initial run is going to be slower, but hopefully you make up for that with the time that you save from then on. How do I know it's going to be slower? Well, it tells me in the log window. I can isolate the warnings. There it is. Workspace may run slower because features are being recorded on all connections. So yeah, so we can look at warnings, we can look at errors of which there aren't any, and we can just look at general information, messages as well. So we used to be able to filter messages in the log, but it was sort of more of a static process. Now we're looking at a dynamic process here. We can do it directly within the log window. And there's even next and previous buttons. So I can say, well, find the next warning. And it pops up this block of warnings and say, oops, here's your next warning. There's the next warning, and so on. So we have that capability now in the log window to search for warnings and errors. Somebody asked us last year about, could we change the color of those? Because if you've got a color blindness type thing, then it makes it hard to see. Well, now we don't need to do that because you can just isolate the warnings and look at them, and it doesn't really matter if they look the same color. You can isolate them that way. So yeah, so let's carry on with this demo and making some changes. So I can add some parks data. I'm going to add that with a writer that I'm adding with Quick Add. Oops, no, I don't want to write. I want to read. I want to read some parks data. So I'm doing that. Oops, we're in demo 2. Source data. There's my parks. Click OK. Add that. I'm going to add a neighbor finder transformer. So we're finding the nearest park for every address. I don't need the inspector, to be honest. As long as I've got caching turned on, I don't need that inspector transformer at the end. And I'll show you why in a second. Because I can just say, well, let me run that neighbor finder. Again, the neighbor finder's got the run from here option. So I hit the run from here and it says, well, okay, you haven't run the parks yet though, so you're gonna have to run that as well. Okay, so it pops up a dialog and tells me if I'm missing something that I need to run before I can get to that point. So that's good, it lets me know about that. So we run that little bit of translation. Again, the bit above with the crime data, we don't need to run that again. And I don't need to have an inspector because I can just hit the little green button on the neighbor finder and up pops the data. And I can say, oops, I did that wrong. I got the ports the wrong way around. I wanted addresses, not parks. So I can just switch that over and run it again. And again, I can just hit the green button when it comes up. And again, I can say, oh, I made a mistake there. I forgot to accumulate attributes. Let's turn that on and run it again. And you can see I can make little changes and run just that transformer again. I don't have to run the entire workspace. That to me is just like incredible, such a time saver, especially when I'm reading from a website or a web service. I don't have to hit a web service with, say, 1,000 records or something. I can just run this last transformer. It really, really helps. Yeah, so bookmarks. Let's mention the bookmarks. Excuse me. So I can put a bookmark around something, press Control B as before. We've got a little cogwheel icon on it now. That opens up the dialog, change the color and the name. So that's a little bit different. But the key, I mean, obviously the key change here is that we can now collapse bookmarks like so and expand them again. And by doing that, we cut down on the space needed within the workspace. So I can sort of collapse all of these bookmarks like this and save me some space. Now what I can also do is I can move the bookmarks so they sort of match up together. So I sort of, it's like a two-step process. I arrange my transformers and then I compress the bookmarks and arrange the bookmarks as well. Now why do I do that? Well, because when I do that and they're next to each other, opening up the bookmark and closing it down again will cause the other bookmarks around it to open and sort of move away from it as well. So we don't get any overlaps like that. So that's a very important capability. I heard a noise in the background. Was somebody, did you have a comment or anything there? Any input?
You read my mind, Mark. No, we weren't trying to make a noise, but
that's okay.
But I'm not sure if you've mentioned it yet, but there's an amazing interaction between the collapsed bookmarks and the caching that's going on. And do you know about that, or you want to you would like me to expound?
Well, I can see that there's a run button on the bookmark itself. Is that what you were going to suggest? Yes.
Well, if you collapse it, now my understanding is that if you were in this situation, we basically will not cache the intermediate results within the bookmark. So in other words, some people are asking, wow, you know, if you have a complicated workspace, all those little cache files are going to really add up to a huge amount of disk space and a lot of slowdown. To which I say, you're right, they will. But if you collapse the bookmark and then run, we don't actually keep track of the stuff inside of the bookmark.
So if I run this here, it won't cache the bit in the middle, it'll only cache the output. Oh, that's fantastic.
Yes. And
Wow.
so that's the way, if you are building, you know, a 7,000 transformer workspace, use bookmarks wisely. When one chunk is working, collapse it, and then you don't pay the price for all that temporary space in there. Other folks are asking how.
I didn't.
Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
I did not know that, so I'm just like, wow, that's stunning. That's great.
Yeah, it was a wonderful interaction between the collapsed bookmarks and the partial runs that we. You know, it's kind of, again, like FME is like this giant video game, and we discovered an Easter egg there when we realized those would work
and
together.
it's a good incentive to utilize best practices in your workspace and use bookmarks, because all of a sudden you actually have more power over how much you're actually running every time.
Absolutely.
Yes. So you get benefits from organizing your workspace.
Yeah.
So you were about to say other people were asking?
Yeah, so some people were asking, how much disk space does this take? What can I do to minimize it? So that's the answer. We also did actually, underneath this is using our FFS, FME Feature Store technology. In this FME, that is actually more compressed and efficient than previous ones. And as well, we can restore from that far faster than we ever did before. So I think it's almost faster than reading a DGN file now, Mark.
Wow, that is fast. Yes, I did mean to mention that when I click the view button, it opens up in the inspector way quicker than it did before. I don't know if anybody noticed that.
A lot of people worked for months and months so that you could do just what you did there, Mark.
Wow, I'm very grateful to them, I have to say.
Yeah.
So the other thing we can do with bookmarks, I don't know if anybody noticed this before, is you can rename the ports as well. So we can say that this is addresses coming in, and this is prepared addresses or something like that. So we can change the port names just by double clicking on them.
Okay, and I have to admit, I didn't know you could do that.
Wow. Well, there you go. We both learned something today.
Yeah.
And the other one I wanted to show was documentation, because we had this idea, well, you could put documentation with annotation and bookmarks together and sort of create a little book with a table of contents. And you can say, well, we've got all of that information in there. Store that information. If somebody comes along and wants to know where the data is coming from, they just look at that data source, it tells them, and you can put any information you like in there. So
and those things can be nested, right, Mark? They could be nested sort of like those Russian dolls.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm pretty sure we didn't intend this to be the use of the bookmarks, but I think it works pretty well. So, yeah, let's see, what else have I got? Oh yeah, so you probably didn't hear, but my phone was ringing in the background. I have my colleague there is calling me and saying, well, he's been playing around with the attribute value mapper, and he's got some values in there that he'd like me to try out. So, okay, well, I'm going to open his workspace up and look at this and say, well, okay, well, you only sent me that transformer, but all of your values are different. What am I going to do? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of those values, copy them, go into my workspace. Now I have to delete the ones I've got there first, but then I can just paste their version directly in here.
I didn't know you could do that.
Yes, we have copy and paste between these now. It's fantastic. It really works well. So it does that. You can copy and paste. I mean, obviously it has to be a valid parameter. So I can't say, well, I'm going to copy that parameter and then paste it into an aggregator, because obviously there's nothing in there that makes sense. So it's got to be the right type of parameter. But yeah, you can copy and paste. The other one I wanted to show was it this one? Actually, I don't think I ever actually inspected this data. Let me inspect this data. Oops. just take a second to do this. But I wanted to show this because it was really quite a neat output. I forgot I'd not. Oh, I should have. See, I should have shut the bookmark down there, shouldn't I?
Yes.
Made it quicker.
You saved some time.
Okay, so what I've got here is some addresses. I'm going to do a filter here and say, well, let's find all of the addresses whose closest park is a dog park.
Mark's always a big dog park guy.
I guess. So that's our filter setup there. So we've got that. So say, hey, that'd be really good to do in my workspace. So I'm going to copy that from here.
Wow.
And I'm going to go into a tester, and I can paste that directly into there.
That's the first time that you've ever been able to take anything from the data inspector and use it in Workbench.
Put it back into Workbench. Yes, that's incredible. I really like that. But really, for me, that conditional values is the big thing there that really is going to be useful for that. Okay, well, next let's carry on, because I'm using up a lot of time here, I know. I wanted to show a demo of tolerance parameters. Tolerance, again, this is another huge deal for me in 2018. We've added a new tolerance parameter for a lot of different, well, it's certainly a large number of different transformers that could benefit from that, like these overlay transformers, clippers, dissolvers. We've had tolerance in there before for like the snapper and things, but this is a new sort of tolerance. Really, when we look at tolerance, there's two reasons you might want to use it. One of it is because you've got badly formed geometry. Like here, I've got a gap of say 10 meters, which is really bad, but normally you could be like half a meter off or something like that, and it doesn't match up, and you want to fix it. The other reason we use tolerance, and this is really for me the key for this, is to fix rounding issues in coordinates. For example, if I read from two different formats, they might store their coordinates in a different way, and we'll see that in a demo, and so they don't quite line up as you expect. And things like that can happen where you don't get the coordinates matching exactly, because FME like works to the absolute precision it can, and if your two coordinates are like 0.00000001 of a meter apart, then it's not a match as far as FME is concerned. So that's why we have this tolerance parameter that we put into FME 2018. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you the data I've got first. I've got some AutoCAD data, and it's a set of roads, and it's all tiled up. And so what I'm saying is basically I've given a tile to somebody else to make some edits on, and they made their edits in whatever tool they've got, and they sent me the data back in map.info format. So, and you might say, well, what use is that? Well, I've got FME. I don't care what format they send it back to me in. I can handle all of that. So, and we zoom in just to check, and yeah, it looks like the boundaries between the two data sets looks like they match up pretty good. So that's obviously working. Same coordinate system. Hey, it's going to be fine. So we'll give that a try. So I've got another template I'm going to open. Let's see this one. So we're reading the MIF data, we're reading the AutoCAD data, we're putting it through a topology builder and building topology. And we can see that the topology builder's got this new tolerance parameter in there. Now the default value is none, which is what you've had up till now in FME. It's had no tolerance setting at all. So it's not really trying to do any cleaning of the data. And if I run this workspace and look at my topology that I've got here, let's have a look at where the two lines meet up. Well, we should have a line, a node, and another line. But when we query that, we've actually got two nodes in the middle. So we've got a line, two lines and two nodes. And this line goes to node 1667. And this line comes from node 2736. So something's gone wrong there. The two lines aren't matching up correctly. They're teeny tiny bit out. And that's because I suspect that map.info and AutoCAD don't save their coordinates in the same way. One's probably integer, one's floating point. You read them back, they don't quite match. This is what the setting's built for. For me, this is what the setting really shines at doing. If I set the tolerance to automatic, what it's going to do now is it's going to search out those small tiny little issues in coordinate rounding that would otherwise might throw your data off, and fix those issues. So now if we query that, we can see we've only got 3 features. The node number 1238, that line goes from node 1238, and that line goes to node 1238. So it matches up, so it's fixed. So basically that setting has fixed our data up for us. Now what it hasn't done is it hasn't fixed on a larger scale. So if I zoom into where I made that gap earlier, that little gap between the two, it hasn't fixed that problem. It's not trying to do that. It's just trying to fix sort of on a micro scale, I guess. If I want to fix that sort of issue, I can change the tolerance to a custom value and say enter 5 meters and do something like that. But FME is not going to try and do that on your data, obviously, without your knowledge. It's just trying to clean up the little bits in there that you probably aren't even aware of until it happens. The other thing I should mention as well is that's actually faster. It took 4 seconds to run that. I'm pretty sure it took more than 4 seconds to run without that setting set. So it's actually, performance is better with that set to automatic than it is set to no tolerance. Yeah. Oh, there you go. That's my demo slide. That's what we just showed. Well, let's have a look. Talk about performance since I was mentioning it. We do have improvements in the engine performance, stashing of data and FFS reading and writing. That's improved greatly, and that should improve all of your translations, because a lot of your translations will be stashing data, reading and writing FFS under the covers. So that should be a big improvement. We've optimized string handling and attribute handling and things like that. The intersection tolerance, well, that's improved. We just mentioned that. And rejected ports, we're working through those right now to improve the speed of whenever a transformer has a rejected port. It says there your mileage will vary, which is true. I've got a demo to show that, but I think I'm going to, because of the time issue, I'm going to leave that till the end of the presentation for that. But yes, we're going to come up to midpoint Q&A in a second. So any other questions you do have, post them in now and we'll try and answer them before we go into the second part. Yeah, so we'll look at this demo later, but basically it took us 1:48 seconds to read and sort and sample data from SQLite last year, and this year it's 9 seconds. But again, your mileage varies, and I'll show that in the demo if we get time at the end. Okay, well, this is a demo I do want to show with a bufferer transformer. I've just got a secret link in there to the data I'm going to use. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a 3D buffer around some features, and the features are actually going to be, just give me a second to make sure I can't talk and type at the same time. The features are going to be rapid transit lines, and I'm going to read it again directly from the website of the City of Vancouver. Now what I'm going to do here is something a little bit different, because this idea just came to me yesterday. It was like, well, I'm putting a reader down, I'm going to put a bufferer down as well. But while I'm putting that bufferer down, I could hit the run button and run this translation. So FME is reading that data and caching it while I'm still building the rest of the workspace. So I can hit the run button, then I can put the bufferer transformer down. And by the time I've got the bufferer transformer down and set up, we should have read the data from their website, and then we're all ready to go with the bufferer. So now I just hit run from this on the bufferer, and I don't need to, it doesn't have to read the data at the same time. So that just occurred to me the other day. I think we can do that. You can put a reader down, start it running, and then you carry on creating the rest of the workspace. So,
yeah.
So sorry, Dale, you were about to say.
No, I hadn't thought of that, but you're right. You can actually author while it's working.
That's right, and I hadn't thought of that either until it just hit me yesterday. That buffering's sort of fairly intense, so we'll give it a minute or two and come back to it. I wanted to mention the tester. It's got a new mode for date-time comparisons. So if you go into the tester, look under the mode. In fact, I think there's 2 extra modes in there. If I throw a tester down here, if we look under the mode, we've got date-time mode, but we've also got case sensitive and insensitive now. I think that's new for 2018. So that's something else to be aware of.
It reminds me of the song, Mark. It seems like you might have some advice to give on how to be insensitive.
I don't think I know that one.
You might be alone.
We've never been insensitive or tolerant before, so we're all things to all people this time around.
Tolerance is the key word. If you want to see a demo of that tester, by the way, go to the World Tour. There's a tips and tricks presentation I made for the World Tour, and that has an example of that tester in there as well. So, and then yeah, S3 and Hadoop direct reading, which means when you add a reader, you can say read from the web and go straight to a file on Amazon or HDFS, which I think is Hadoop file system. Is that right? And you'll be able to read directly from there. And the final thing I wanted to mention was coordinate system support, new datums for Australia and Germany, especially Australia, I guess. The GDA 2020 datum we now support, and we have the grids in there to convert from GDA 94. So you can do that in FME as well. Feature writer output ports. I wanted to mention that as well. And the feature writer lets you output your data that comes into the workspace, into the transformer, whereas before all we had out was summary output. Again, I'm not going to do a demo now, but there's a demo in my tips and tricks at the World Tour, so keep an eye out for that. But it lets you write the data and then do something more with it. You even write it twice, so you can put it through a feature writer to write it to shape, another feature to write it to KML, another one to write it to something else, and so on and so forth. I'll very quickly look to see if we finished buffering. No, it's still going on, but it's a 3D buffer. It's pretty cool. But
you can always keep an eye on that,
Yeah.
and when it's
Yes.
baked, we can.
Yes. Oh, there we go. Just as I said that, it perfect. So I'm guessing this is very expensive from a computational point of view. That's why it takes so long. And there are a lot of vertices in this data, that's for sure. But if I sort of spin this round, you can see that we're in 3D here, and we've created 3D sort of map of the tube system in Vancouver, such as it is. So yeah, and I figure you can. Yeah,
we can make pipelines just like that, Mark.
Exactly. I'm thinking pipelines, heating, ventilation ducts, that sort of thing. You could do all sorts of things like that inside a building, for example, with BIM, and check if it sort of overlaps or not. So yeah. Okay, well, I'll fire it back to you folks. We're going to have the Q&A session. So any good questions that you found coming up? I wasn't really keeping an eye on that. So
well, there's people are asking lots and lots of things. Somebody asked if they can use FME at home. Yes, there is a home license. If you just search for FME home license, if you're a student or somebody that wants to play around, you can definitely do that. Some people are asking about the PowerPoint, if it has to be spatial, and the answer is no. In fact, one of our partners, Sweco, did a webinar on using the PowerPoint and Word things with non-spatial stuff. And so maybe I'll see if Stephanie can dig that out and we can chat that link out. But the Sweco folks did that. Anyway, there's no need. And actually, we're going to do a whole webinar ourselves eventually on this stuff.
I was actually hoping to throw in a surprise demo of PDF to PowerPoint. But I had a problem reading the PDF. My PDF file had a little bit of a peculiarity with it that we didn't quite handle right. So
you don't have the secret PDF stash that I do.
It's in the next build, but I was hoping to take the training materials and create slides out of it automatically, which I think would be great. So
wow. But anyway, we'll keep answering all the questions as they come in. But in the meantime, maybe Annabelle, you want to take it away for the second half of our webinar, which we have 15 minutes for.
Yeah, so I had a plan B for this scenario, and that was I'm going to do it the cooking show version, where I have everything already ready to go, and you'll just have to trust me that it works and the workspace run and everything looks perfect. Yes. So let's operate with that assumption. So with no further ado, this half, or I guess in this case, quarter of the presentation is going to be focused more, it's okay, Mark, is more focused on the new features or new formats and some new transformers that we've added in 2018, whereas Mark's presentation was focused more on the functionality of Workbench and some improvements we've done there. So let's take a look at what we've done. So new formats. This is a slide that I think Stephanie and Tiana had a bit of a headache over because we have so many new ones, and trying to fit them all on there was a challenge. But we have some exciting ones. Maybe Dale wants to pick out a few favorites.
Well, it's hard to, really they're like your children. How can you pick a favorite format really without, snubbing some other ones? Lots of work on the raster side of things. You can see we added 55-ish rasters. Some folks wanted if you're a hardcore open source person, there's a thing called a VRT that Google can read, which is like a list of a bunch of other rasters and makes it into one. We do that. Active Directory, people have asked for a long time. That's a non-spatial thing, but if you want to, you could basically make a PowerPoint presentation out of all of your employees. Read LDAP, get all the employees and turn them into a PowerPoint, and then have that playing automatically. Whenever a new employee arrives, it'll automatically regenerate, and your rolling thing of all the employees would automatically be there.
We're just PowerPoint slides to you, is that it?
Yeah, that's right. But I think, PDF reading, some people actually just right now, we're sort of shocked to hear that we do PDF reading, and we do.
And we're going to demonstrate a little bit of it.
Yeah. So that's been a long time ask as well. So we won't really look much more into that, but yes, there are lots of new formats.
And a few new transformers, some of which will be more popular than others, I'm sure. But I think the area gap and overlap cleaner is a big one.
That's basically falls out of the tolerance stuff. And actually under the covers, all that is an area on area overlay with tolerance and a little bit of other magic added.
Snapping and stuff.
Yeah, so it has the effect that it gets rid of slivers. In fact, it's no longer a poor man's cleaning. This is a reasonably middle class person.
More robust.
It's a middle class person's cleaning.
Oh my goodness.
And let's see, mesh simplification. That's a big deal for 3D people that want to dumb down complicated model. Which one is yours?
Project-wise connector.
Yes. Yeah. Been asked for a long time. And so, yeah, lots of good stuff there.
And of course, FME Hub is your repository for all things custom. So if you have any wonderful transformers you want to share with the FME community, the Hub is a place to do that. And if you can't find something that Safe has already built, you can always make it yourself and share it with the world. So we have actually a huge library of transformers there, about 400 custom transformers, as well as workspace templates, so workflows that people have already authored and published for you guys to reuse. Web connections, those are also very popular and growing every single day, so adding new web connections to things like Strava or Instagram, that kind of thing. And actually custom format reading as well, so if there's a format that we don't yet support, but you have found a way to do that, you can upload that to the Hub as well. Anything else you want to say about Hub?
It's just continuing to expand, and we're continuing to put more effort into there as well.
So we're not going to go too deeply into this, but this is explaining how we can now connect to Apple Venue format, which is both a reader and a writer, as well as IBM Tririga, which is through FME Hub. AVF is basically indoor mapping through Apple's format. And I don't know if Dale, you want to expound a bit on AVF at all? It's
just a very key format for people that want to submit their building plans to Apple for ultimate inclusion into the Apple mapping APIs. And if you're an airport, then Apple will actually even put that into the Apple Maps ultimately.
Yeah.
Gets the blue dot inside the building.
Yeah. So I'm not really going to do a full-blown demo, but I will show the workspace magic that one of our experts, Dave Campanis, built and kind of what it looks like in Data Inspector. So fingers crossed I have the right workspace here. So yes, it's very large. It definitely breaks the 10 transformer rule. But what this is doing is it's taking an IFC file, splitting it out, and then building an AVF file in the output. And what this allows us to do primarily when you look at AVF is actually identify single rooms and features within rooms in the output. So if I was to go to Data Inspector, if we zoom in here,
so it's properly geolocated.
It's properly geolocated, yep. And if I was to click on a feature, if I click on one of these rooms, you can see that it says, oh, it's the break room, okay? And it has the area involved, and it has a unique ID,
yeah.
So you can.
So there's lots of, AVF has lots of basically important aspects to its data model, and we can set that all up for ultimate submission into Apple.
Yeah, but you can see how the translation is complex because there's a lot of different components at play.
Bottom line, this is like the new version. In old days, we used to do CAD to GIS. This is CAD/BIM to
GeoJSON and AVF and
to basically indoor mapping, mobile. So it's an important workflow for some set of people.
And it renders very quickly. That's another benefit of it. So as we alluded to, PDF reading, it is, I think, one of our greatest voted for, and before we even voted, it was probably the most popular thing that people asked for. Ever.
And this is my, if you remember the great Nicolas Cage, John Travolta movie called Face Off.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, this is the Face Off where one half is Nicolas Cage and one half is John Travolta, and you put them together, and here that's the same thing. So one half is the FME Data Inspector reading some complicated PDF. The other half is Adobe Reader. Put them side by side. Wow, they look the same. And that's how we knew that we were as good as Nicolas Cage or John Travolta.
That's an interesting analogy, but I will accept it.
Did you see the movie ever?
I think I was quite young when it came out and probably not age appropriate. So I don't, and I didn't, now as an adult, I don't really have an urge to watch it, but you know, maybe I will.
After the webinar, you might want to.
Maybe.
Yeah. Or you could just read PDFs.
I think PDFs might be more.
So is that what you're going to do, is read a PDF now?
That's exactly what I'm going to do. And again, I apologize. I'm going to kind of do this. You're just going to have to trust me that I did this workspace. It did its thing and the output is authentic. But I will show the workspace. I have a few different steps. So I have my handy dandy, not color coordinated bookmarks, but as you can see, I don't have any transformers. I definitely am within the 10 transformer limit. The most complex translation I do only requires one transformer, and it's honestly just to clean up some attributes. But what I'll do is I'll show you the PDF I'm initially working with in Adobe.
So this is Nicolas Cage.
This is Nicolas, oh my God. This is Nicolas Cage. This is a PDF of Austin, Texas, and what we have here is they've actually defined layers in this PDF, which is kind of interesting. I don't know why you would do that, because it's not like you can actually interact with a PDF, but you can turn layers on and off. So if I wanted to go to contours, let's say, I can turn the visibility of them on and off, which...
So that's like turning Nicolas Cage's hair off and off.
Yeah, that's like, this is Nicolas Cage without hair plugs. This is with hair plugs.
Okay.
So we can see that there's several different layers, and actually in the inset map, we have a little thing of, this is important later, so this is a little itty bitty outline of Texas, and as well they have quadrangles, so they're showing you where Austin fits in there.
All my exes live in Texas.
Oh my God. See, this is the risk of having Dale present with you, you know, you just
especially when he's sort of
the color commentary.
Punch drunk after sleep deprivation.
Yeah, this is jet lag Dale.
So now what's going to happen to the great state of Texas?
Oh, that's fascinating. So if I go to my data inspector where I've already loaded up my PDF, you can see that it's been appropriately georeferenced. So that tiny little Texas outline is actually now correctly georeferenced to outline Texas on our base map.
Can you turn off the base map? I just want to...
let's turn it off.
Wow, so Texas was made big.
Yeah, Texas is now the appropriate size relative to the data.
Yeah.
So actually, if we zoom in, you can also see the quadrangles that we were looking at earlier. If we zoom in here.
Some of the people are saying it's pure magic you're showing.
It is pure magic, and again, I feel bad that I didn't actually run the workspace for you, but it does take a little bit of time, and as you can see, the rendering is a bit slow because it's loading the ortho image as well underneath. And my computer, for whatever reason this morning, it hasn't woken up and it sounds like it's about to explode.
Yeah.
But it isn't actually that resource intensive, I can tell you that.
Wow.
But here are all our layers, and they're loading.
This is John Travolta.
Yeah. So, but this isn't as exciting as the rest of them, because all we have is it's just telling me the feature type, because there were no attributes associated with those layers. So if I go back to my workbench, this is my show off full PDF bookmark. The next thing I did was I direct translated layers from that PDF into shapefiles, because they're my favorite format. Everyone loves a shapefile. I just
you've even played the shapefile before.
Yeah, I have a special affinity. I am a method actor. But yeah, so I have a couple of the layers from that original PDF that I'm translating into shapefiles.
Okay.
And I've already run this because I don't want to waste any time. Go all the way around. And in my next view, magical, here we are. This is just the woodlands area.
Okay, let's turn off the background map so we're not confused.
I'm not
Okay.
I'm not faking it.
So this was resurrected. This is data that's been resurrected out of PDF.
Yeah, so these are now shapefile. These are polygons straight from the PDF.
Any attributes on these babies?
No, because
Okay.
they didn't actually have any attributes in that PDF, but I'm building up to that.
Okay.
You know, it's kind of like an infomercial. I'm saying,
Yes.
you know, but wait, there's more.
Okay.
So this is just the areas, you know, pretty exciting. And if I go back to my workspace,
Not that one.
this one, I will skip the table part because I think what we're going to do in the future is a webinar dedicated to this, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And the tables aren't as cool as the geometry, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It doesn't give you the wow factor, but I think later on we're going to do an in-depth webinar, the PDF reader, that explains how we handle text, non-spatial features, as well as some of the other intricacies of the reader. Because actually what I should do right now is I'll just show you what the reader looks like. We have a lot of different options. If I go into the parameters, there's two different components to the reader. We have spatial and non-spatial. So for this demo in the beginning part, I was using the spatial components because it was georeference and I wanted to pull all of that stuff in. However, if you had a PDF that was not georeferenced or you didn't care about the spatial components, you have the non-spatial section, which is what you would be using for tables, or if you wanted to rasterize some text. We can't do OCR in this reader, for those of you who are wondering about that, but what we can do is using the Tesseract caller. If you've never heard of it, it exists. That is one way of pulling text out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But again, I won't go into depth about that because we'll probably touch on that in a different webinar. But for this demo, I was focusing on the spatial. And
Okay.
you know, we have coordinate units, vectors, spatial text, read images, all that good stuff. But as you can see, it requires its own presentation because there's a lot of different things going on it there. So the last thing that I was showing is pulling out geometry and attributes from a PDF into a shapefile. And this is actually a different PDF because I wanted one that had attributes. So everyone loves a good county map. It looks pretty generic, right? You know, it's just, what are you going to do with that? It doesn't look very exciting. What this actually does have is embedded attributes in each of these counties.
Oh, made by Map Publisher. That's friends of ours that we've worked with forever.
Oh, well,
Exciting.
there you go. There you go. So we're making more friends because we can do with stuff with
Yeah.
our data. So all I did is I read in that PDF spatially. I pulled in the attributes. And in this test filter, I'm just excluding any counties that don't have a FIPS code, just to keep it nice and tidy. And then that's it. This is one transformer, and it honestly had nothing to do with altering the PDF in any way. If I go into the data inspector and I go to my counties output,
Whoa.
this is a shapefile of all of the counties in the US from that PDF. And if I click on each county, we have attributes, as you can see in the table view. So we have their population in 1990. This is all census data.
This came from the PDF.
This came from the PDF. So they've already embedded the attributes in the PDF that we can now extract in our PDF reader into a table.
So if we thought PDF was where data goes to die, it's not true.
We can resurrect it.
PowerPoint is now where it goes to die. Although we have people asking if we'll do a PowerPoint reader. So then we'll, if you really want it to die for now, go to PowerPoint, but we might be able to get that back someday.
Yeah, so I think for me, this is the thing that impressed me the most. I haven't had a chance to play with the PDF writer a ton until this demo. And then when I did this, I was like, that was so easy. I just read the PDF and I pulled out all these attributes and geometry without any effort whatsoever. It was just like that. And it's very quick. I think the translation runs in, I don't know, if I was just doing this part, like less than 30 seconds. So
I think we only have a couple minutes left to go, Annabelle. How are we doing on
we're good. We are good. This is the big thing.
That's the big finale in this section.
Yep. And so this is just
some 3D. Okay, so we can just mention we have some 3D output formats, I3S. That's work that's ongoing. There's an initial implementation of this stuff in FME 2018, but the team is working very hard. That mesh simplifying is going to let us do multiple levels of detail. Still being put together. Watch this space for more news there.
Yeah, so on the right-hand side on these images, that's just the I3S plus some added textures to make it look fun. That's all the buildings in New York City, I believe. We talked about this.
We love this. So keep on going.
So this is, that was actually a Word doc. So that's embedding images and maps into a Word doc. PowerPoints we talked about. Actually, this is worth mentioning. We can support cell formatting that includes colors in Excel now, which we couldn't do in the past. So that's a pretty big win for us, I think.
Yep. Okay.
And see, I told you there was a bunch.
So I know folks are going to leave in about a minute, so maybe we should do that. We'll mention that there's a world tour coming. We're going to go to 24 cities in North America. People like Annabelle, me, Mark Ireland, and other safers. So sign up. We are charging a nominal $25 fee this year so that we don't waste food. That's our reason. But any money that we take in, we're giving to the local food bank in each community. So we're not making money off this. We're just trying to be
more economic or more ecologically friendly.
Yes.
Because we do waste a lot of food.
We just, it's really sad when that happens. Yeah. So do sign up for that. But in the last little bit here, let's try
watch Dale fly a plane.
So you have a workspace, and we'll get, let's see.
Actually, we'll flip to your screen because you actually have the workspace open, I believe.
Do I?
Yeah. Or if not, mine is pretty basic. So
let's see. I'll get a workspace. So we'll see if Stephanie will make me the presenter. We'll say show my screen. And what's going to happen here? So there we go. Okay, so let me just put this thing away. And I'll get this. Let's see.
Maximize.
I'll do this. And we'll do this.
There you go.
So here's a workspace that's going to make a Stella.
What?
That's a quote from an old movie.
This is the problem.
I was in Axum lately. And so let me just see if I can flip this up.
So
and I'm going to.
I guess I should preface this with what we're going to show is FME with augmented reality, which we actually do have if you want to know more about it, want more of a in-depth look into how we do it, there is a Coders on Couches Drinking Coffee episode 6 that is talking with the developer who made this work.
We have some people asked, and this is now online. If you search for FME space AR, the augmented reality FME app for an iPhone, and then or an iPad, and then you produce these FME AR files using the writer in FME. And now I'm going to I'll do the Stella, and so this is going to be a bit tricky. So I got to go find a nice surface here. This is Annabelle's place. I think actually I was lucky enough to get this to set up. There it is, and there's the Stella. This is from Axum in Ethiopia, and I got a 3D model of it, and we can kind of go right in and you could even read you can see the place where the Italians cut this in half, and then they shipped this thing to Italy, and then they brought it back again, which is very nice of them. And so we can go around to the other side. Is it working, Annabelle?
I mean, it's working. I'm just hiding my face just in case.
Yeah, so you can see the Stella kind of floating in space there. And so
it's worth mentioning that this is actually remarkably simple. It's it's an OBJ file with some additional textures and images that we zip up into a nice package that ARKit, which is the Apple version of AR, can just manipulate.
Whoa! So now
the plane.
I've got the Zipster plane, but without the Zipster. So let's go. We can take a look underneath it. If I go down here.
Get out of your way.
Anyway, so we made it easy for people to explore 3D objects. We could take Mark Ireland's pipelines that he just made and put them into here.
Yep.
If I pinch, I can shrink that baby down. Does that work?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's sitting on my speaker now.
So it's a lot of fun. So search for FME AR. We know we got some refining to do on this whole workflow, but it's going to get better and better, and the app is there. Right now I'm getting these over to the iPad by connecting to Dropbox. So I take the output from FME, put on Dropbox, and then this app using the fancy Apple file stuff can read it from Dropbox. But that's it. I mean, if I want to look at one that Dimitri did, we'll just have some fun. This is the traditional demo that we've shown perhaps too many times. So this is a terrain model. Okay, let's try the speaker again. Is it going to go there? Yeah, it's going, and boom. Whoa, that isn't what I expected. This is somebody's house. Okay, we can take a look at a hillside house. This is from a Revit model, and we can go right in. Let's look inside the kitchen here. Whoa, I'm a little bit shaky. Sorry.
I'm getting seasick.
Yeah, did it work?
Yeah, oh, it's working.
Okay, that isn't what I wanted. That isn't the traditional demo. Dimitri's hike is the traditional demo. So this is a terrain model with a satellite image draped on top, followed by some GPS tracks burned into that. And so if we can get this to go, come on, there. Lower Mainland. We're putting all of British Columbia here. Whoa. Okay, did that work?
Yeah.
So now we can start to see where Dimitri went for his hike. Can you see it?
Yep.
Let's go down here.
Oh my goodness.
On the side. It's kind of acrobatic to do this. How does it look?
It's, I can see it. It's not super close, but yeah. I don't know if you can zoom in.
I can pinch.
That would, yeah, there you go.
Oh.
If you expand,
Pinching
yeah,
and
there you go.
pinching.
Or it's more like,
Now I've got to go wandering around in here to kind of.
you actually have to do the hike.
There.
You
There
have
it
to
is.
walk all the way.
Okay. So anyway, that's enough playing around.
Yeah.
But have some fun with that. And I think with that, we'll maybe go back to Annabelle's screen and wrap this thing up.
Yeah, so at this point, if you have any additional questions, we can hang around for a few minutes and answer some of your most burning FME 2018. Oh my gosh, I said 2016.
Yeah.
I'm in the wrong year. We're happy to answer them for the next few minutes. And
Yes.
other than that, that was a whirlwind tour of what you can expect.
What phone do you need for the AR one, Dale? Do you know?
Only
I
Apple.
think you need an iPhone that's a 6S or newer, I think. When you go to, when you find the app on the App Store, it tells you. And then I
Okay.
think any iPads that are within the last couple of years.
No Android yet, unfortunately, because it's the kit itself is an Apple-based.
Yeah, but there is an Android equivalent. So we will look to do that. Again, if people want to start exploring their data in 3D in that way. We should just mention, if you want to find out more about FME Server 2018, tomorrow there's Dawn and Jen
Yep.
are doing that.
If you had a blast today, you'll have a blast tomorrow.
That's right. And so that should be a lot of fun to dig into that. And what else is new? Oh, Mark, you must be doing this training, or at least involved in it.
That's right. We're creating an upgrade to FME 2018 training. So if you like what you saw today, come along to the training, and we'll do some hands-on exercises with it all.
Awesome.
Great. Oh, we did the demo. And so, yeah, keep on trying the betas or the release candidates, and give us your feedback. I want to thank someone named Angela who actually found a bug and told us about it during the webinar. During the webinar, the team fixed it.
And it's going to be ready to go tonight.
It's going to be in tonight's build. So, so there, behind the scenes, there was lots going on here today, and that's pretty exciting. So I think we'll wrap up, but we'll hang around. So I want to say thank you to Annabelle and to Mark for your great work prepping this. I know behind the scenes, Stephanie and Tiana had a lot to do with the material you watched today. And of course, the great rest of team at SAFE that's worked extremely hard for a bit more than a year getting FME 2018 to where it is. Dawn and I are very, very pleased and proud of what everybody's done, and we can't wait for all of you that are dialed in today to try it out. But with that, we'll say thanks for joining us. Hang around if you want to quiz us some more. We'll kind of re-talk about some of the questions and the highlights and lowlights, the roses and thorns of today's presentation, and see where we go from there. But from me, Dale, this was a great treat to come back after 2 weeks of pretty intense time in Ethiopia. You know, there was a state of emergency declared, and
I heard that.
And in one of the places we visited, a riot broke out 5 minutes after we left. But
so I'm glad to see that you made it safely back.
So I'm pretty pleased to be here today. But no, it was a fantastic time, a beautiful country, an amazing country, and but great to come back here.
As I understand, you were feeling a bit. You hadn't talked in a while, so
that's right. I thought you were going to say gastrointestinally challenged. No. I was feeling a bit of that too, no. But I'm pleased to say I'm 100% now. So
you'd rested your voice for 2 weeks, so you're totally ready for this.
That's right. That's right. I should do that just before World Tour, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. But we'll hang around and answer any questions.
Oh, training slide. Yeah, we can go back to that.
Yeah. So people are asking us. Are we going to make these slides available? Of course, yes. There'll be a recording that will be in higher resolution. I think my singing will sound even better on the recording. Any other questions? The people are asked our question and answer panel. I wonder who they were.
Our lovely Q&A helpers today were Nathan Hildebrand, Andrea Eisma, and Debbie Young. So thank you guys very much for helping us with our questions today, and any ones that we don't get to right away, any pressing questions, we do have a record of them, so we can follow up with you.
So are those people on? Are they assigned to do the follow-up?
Yep.
That's their lucky job.
Yep.
So do they? Any of them want to jump in? Do any of you have audio that you want to?
I personally, I did have another quick demo to do on performance.
Oh yeah.
Let's
do that, Mark.
To go back.
So get
sure.
Stephanie to make Mark the boss man.
Okay. Just gonna make sure we show the right screen. There we go. So we should be seeing the screen. Now I've got to remember what it was that I was doing in this in this demo. Okay, so yes, I do have a template ready. So we'll open that up. So this was performance, and I wanted to show how good it was, but also we mentioned that your mileage will vary, and I think I wanted to sort of explain that and what it meant. So here I'm reading 500,000 records, crime records for the city of Vancouver, and sorting that data and sampling it. And I ran this translation in 2017, and it took about 1 minute and 27 seconds, and now it takes 10 seconds. So that's because we extended the sorter and the sampler to use feature tables, which is underlying technology that I guess we're putting it into all of, or as much of FME as we can. Is that right, Dale?
Yeah, you want to run that again, Mark? I blinked and I missed it.
Yes, I can run that again, and it would be a slow blink, but still, it was a way quicker blink than in 2017 to blink and miss it.
Well, in fact, you're even running that with the
feature tables.
with the
I
cache.
am, yes. If I turn that off, it would probably be even quicker. It hadn't even occurred to me. Yeah.
And
there
we're
we
done.
go. 6.9 seconds.
Yes.
But I mean, the thing I wanted to mention was that it relies on you having the feature tables and not losing them at any point. Is losing them a good way of putting it, Dale? I'm not sure how to phrase it.
It's more like splitting them with
Right.
feature tables. So like if you're using, for example, like a feature merger or like you're merging it with some other data set, like it's going to have to split the feature table apart to match it. So that kind of thing will disrupt the feature table.
So I was thinking if I put an attribute creator in here and create myself a new attribute and then run this again, the feature table gets split as it goes into the attribute creator. Now we're running features, and it says in the log window there. So if I was going to do that, probably better to take that attribute creator out of there and put it after the sampler, then at least the sampling and the sorting's going on.
Yes, that's right. If you don't need it, if you don't need that attribute until later, then make it later.
Yes.
You should maybe do a best practices with feature tables.
Yeah.
But I don't know what the future of feature tables is. I guess we're adding more functionality in 2018.1 and 19 as well. Yeah.
It's basically hand-to-hand combat, going transformer by transformer, making it work wherever we can. So we've got a long, detailed list of places to make these incisions.
Okay. So I think that's one of the reasons why we say your mileage will vary on the performance improvements that we mention. If we say something's 30% faster, well, sometimes it is only because of the feature tables. So,
and then, that tolerance business, we didn't, I can't remember if we had the slide of the dissolves, Mark?
No, I had to take that a little bit out because I had too much to talk about. So,
but dissolve is drastically faster in most cases if you turn on the automatic mode for the tolerance. And so the ones I've seen, the dissolves I've seen are at least about a quarter of the time when you have auto on.
Wow, that's fantastic.
So why isn't auto the default? Basically, we lack the courage just yet because we've got 25 years of being intolerant that we don't want to kind of undo immediately. But I would say for FME 2019, the auto will be the default.
Okay, fantastic. Somebody was asking about how they can tell which readers and transformers use feature tables, and I think there's an article on the knowledge base. But I think we're also talking about putting a little symbol on the transformer to say this is
some sort of visual representation would be nice.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'll reveal sort of the thinking in the background here. To some degree, we just want people to be pleasantly surprised and not have to know that we've basically replumbed. But I mean, I know for people that are real craftspersons with FME, they will want, it is useful to know because then, as Mark showed, you can arrange things so that all the feature table things are beside each other. One thing that again, because when you're using feature tables, sort of the order of things is a little different than before. We aren't going to just upgrade automatically to things. And so it's worth people knowing that there's this concept of being able to upgrade readers and writers. Mark, if you want to just right click on the CSV2, one of the things there will say update the reader. That will have the effect, if a reader has been made to be able to do feature tables, doing this update and just saying okay will cause it to get the greatest, newest functionality. Now in Mark's case, he already was using the latest CSV reader, so there's not going to happen, not going to change the behavior there. But that's one thing to be aware of.
Yeah.
Let's see, anything else? Can we generate a Word report from an Esri geodatabase that would include table data as well as map and pictures? Yes.
Yeah.
And so that'll be the kind of thing that that will show when basically we're experimenting with a new mental model for reporting. So we've got a styler concept, and you can put ordering into there, and then when it hits the writer, it'll just lay everything out. And that's the way that the PowerPoint is the most advanced there. And the Word is most of the way there for FME 2018.0 and 2018.1. We're going to add a little bit more to give more control on the ordering of things. And off we go.
Someone was asking about the date time mode in the new tester, and I think they said, can it work with approximate date times? I'm not quite sure what you mean. Yeah, I mean, approximate could be.
That's sort of the scheduling that I follow. I'll be there. I'll be at Annabelle's meeting approximately at 10 o'clock.
Yes. So yeah, we've got date time. I think you can do equals, you can do greater than, less than, things like that with date times. So I can say, is this time greater than that time? Is this date before or after this other date? So we can do things like that, but I don't know that we can do approximate ones. And we do have a date time calculator, date time converter, transformers. Date time calculator existed already. Date time converter is new for 2018 as well, or it's a reworked version of the date formatter. So that's just to mention that.
It looks like actually there must be a knowledge base article that actually lists the transformers that do feature tables. Were you aware of that, Annabelle?
I've seen it. I haven't accessed it lately, but I can definitely find it
Yes.
if I wanted to.
Yes, I think someone chatted that out, didn't they?
Yeah, I think our handy dandy
Andrea.
Q&A
Yes,
post.
they did, but let's see. Let's see. I can't tell.
Oh, here we are.
Somebody was asking. Oh yeah, there we go. Okay, Rylan. Good job, Rylan.
Yeah, thank you.
So let's see. We should maybe chat that to everybody somehow. You can put that in there and say to everyone. Can you?
My doc will go away.
Okay. Anyway, someone else was asking. They want to know exactly. We're gonna have to follow up with them exactly what the deal is when they're converting from NAD 83 to WGS 84. And so that's a detailed coordinate system kind of thing. And so we'll have to figure that out.
Someone was asking about caching as well, and I forgot to mention that it doesn't work when you have, or parallel processing won't work at the same time as caching, and neither will transformers such as variable setters and variable retrievers. I think that's known that they won't work. They're just not compatible with caching data in that way.
Yes. And also, you know, if you're hitting a web service that is somehow time dependent, or somehow when you cache that result, obviously you're going to get stale stuff when you come back from that cache.
Yeah.
If there's anything that we'd call a side effect of using a transformer, the caching is not a good match with that.
Yeah. Somebody was asking about caching in child workspaces, and it did make me wonder that I hadn't even thought about a workspace runner and what that does to caching. I guess caching is only works when you've got it running within Workbench. If I run it from the command line, caching won't be happening in a workspace, I don't think. That hadn't occurred to me, so maybe I'll have to experiment with that.
We got David is asking how he's got hundreds of individual Excel workbooks. Each tab up to 2 has header information in the first 5 rows, and the actual data starts a few rows down. We could do that. It might be a bit tricky, but I would encourage David to just follow up with us, and we can send some pointers. Or actually, if David wouldn't mind, that'd be exactly the kind of thing that the FME community would love to dig into.
Yeah.
You could post like a sample up there, and people from around the globe will chip in.
They love a good
help.
challenge like that.
Yeah, I'm going to just suggest that back to David. Suggest posting a sample to the FME Knowledge Center Q&A forum.
Well,
Yep. Well, I don't know, Mark, is there anything else we should talk about, or have we exhausted all the demos we might have considered doing?
We could probably talk all day, but that was all of the demos I got for sure. So
Yeah.
Only 20 minutes over, it's not the worst.
And I see.
know. Well, it's like you said, there's probably, I don't know, about 10 person years worth of development in that version. So trying to condense it down to half an hour has been quite a
And that's
challenge.
a good point for the world tour, because we will go into a lot of these things.
The world tour, that training course on using FME 2018, definitely worth it.
A couple other webinars probably on specific features.
Yeah, like the PDF reading, like the word writing.
Yeah.
That we're just, I mean, there's so many improvements in this version. It's really, really hard to.
This is
wrap
just
your
like the
mind around.
initial pitch, and then if you're interested in any of the things that we talked about today, stay tuned for.
You know,
more information.
we've had a team working away just inside of CAD all year. We didn't actually talk about all the improvements that were made in like 3D arcs, clothoids. I never even got to talk about clothoids.
The creator creates those now, I believe.
The creator creates them. Somebody said that the creator's been sped up, so now it can make the world in 5 days instead of 6. So that's the joke. But it is true, the creator has been sped up. So there's just so many things. But maybe, Mark, should we wrap it up there?
I think that's probably a good idea, yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, well, thanks. Yeah, thanks everyone for sticking with us till the bitter end here. And if you asked a question we didn't get back to you, Annabelle promises that the team will dig in and leave no stone unturned. Is that the phrase we use?
Yeah, something like that.
And anyway, Mark, Annabelle, such a pleasure working with you on this.
Yep.
Welcome
So
back.
great to be back.
Yep.
I actually have some nice Ethiopian kolo to share with everybody right now.
Ah.
So do you know what kolo is?
No.
Well, you're about to find out.
Okay. Oh, good suspense.
And Mark, I'm sorry you won't be able to partake. We'll send you a virtual kolo.
Save me some. I'll be there in a week or two anyway. So.
We'll get Gwen to put away a little Ziploc bag for you.
That sounds scary.
Okay. Well, goodbye, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Okay, thanks, folks.